Well, the Home Secretary has condemned an alleged attack on two police officers filmed in Hackney in London. The video shows an officer struggling on the ground with a man. Two men, aged 20 and 38, were arrested on suspicion of assault on police. Both officers suffered minor injuries. We're joined by the chairman of the Police Federation, John Apter. John Apter, a very good afternoon to you. Don't want to focus too much on what is presumably a live investigation into the incident we saw footage of just there. But it goes without saying the last week has both literally and metaphorically been a bruising one for officers in the Metropolitan Police.
It has. It's been really tough, and policing is tough and it's unpredictable. And we saw those horrific scenes not only on the video last night, but also with the protests. And this is not only in London, it's across the country. And much of which goes unreported and unnoticed by the vast majority of the public. But my colleagues are facing significant abuse on a daily basis. And to put it into context, 85 police officers a day across England and Wales are being assaulted. That's 30,000 a year, 30,000 police officers a year. Not all suffer injuries, I accept, but that number is increasing. It's increased significantly from the previous year. And yes, we're reporting and recording assaults on my colleagues better, but the level of violence that they are being exposed to is horrific. And we know that the vast majority of the public support policing. We know that from surveys that are done by independent organisations. In fact, the last survey that was done said that I think it's 76% of the public had trust and faith in their police.
Yeah, and actually the racial divisions there are quite interesting, aren't they? Because it's about 70% for the BAME community, about 75% for the white community, which is, you know, a relatively small gap, maybe you could argue smaller than sometimes some commentators might suggest.
Yes.
Just on the point about what we see, I'm not going to go back to that footage, but it's striking that members of the public were filming it on their smartphones. That is a two-way street, isn't it? I mean, increasingly officers are wearing body-worn cameras. So when they become victims egregiously of violence and presumably the legal process is taking its course, do you think you as the Police Federation need to make sure that the media and the public see what officers have to contend with more than perhaps has been the case?
Yeah, I mean, look, body-worn video, I'm a big supporter of body-worn video. And let's not forget why body-worn video was brought in. It was brought in because a number of our critics felt that, you know, the majority of police officers were corrupt and didn't do their job properly. What body-worn video has actually shown is the level of violence that police officers are exposed to. A number of complaints that are made against police officers are malicious complaints. That's captured on body-worn. And look, I'm not saying that it's all perfect and rosy in the policing garden. We get things wrong. You know, policing is complex and it's difficult, and we're entering people's lives at a really challenging time. And where we do get things wrong, we have to listen to the communities and we have to change. And I think policing has changed massively, certainly since I started policing 27 years ago. Policing is a different beast than it ever has been, in a good way.
Did you agree with Macpherson? Was the Met, for instance, institutionally racist in your view? There's no question about that.
Yeah, I mean, this topic, Colin, has been discussed for many, many years. And I think one thing with policing, we can be quite defensive, because if I say to colleagues institutionally racist, then that's deeply offensive. But I think it's much, much broader. And look, this is not just a policing issue. And this is one thing that I think is really important. So policing, of course, deals with the broken society, the criminal justice system. The courts are not working as well as they can. Lack of funding is part of it. Lack of evolving with technology is another part. But it goes much broader. It's about housing, it's about education, it's about welfare, it's all of society. And
well, Sorry. Just on funding. I mean, the government will say, as you know, 20,000 extra that was officers on the beat. That was a manifesto pledge. Yeah. So you're getting those extra officers. I know there have been stories suggesting that there's a degree of inexperience on the beat now. That you mentioned the number of assaults on officers, and that is one of the reasons you're getting a lot of officers retiring, sometimes in ill health, sometimes because they can't deal with the stresses, understandably. And therefore, in the Met, you've lost a lot of experience. Is that one of the reasons we saw the sight of officers retreating under fire on the streets of Whitehall last week?
Well, no, you've asked a number of things there. First of all, the extra officers, they're not extra, they're just plugging the gap of what we've lost over the last 10 years. But I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. We have a different government different Home Secretary, different Prime Minister, who are now showing much more support to policing. I'm not going to throw that back in their face. But the number of officers we're recruiting will not fill the gap that was left by those who have left before us. And when we talk about inexperience, police officers, the training that police officers go through, they're tutored. Of course, they have to do some training on the streets. And police officers, they wear a uniform, professional individuals, but they're human beings. They're not robots. They're not programmed to go out and ignore some of the violence that they face. And when officers are confronted with a situation, they might not have the equipment that they need to protect themselves. They're outnumbered. They're going to do the right thing. They're going to retreat. They're going to back off. And that's what I would expect them to do. What we have to do, especially with protests and demonstrations, is be prepared and also not be too concerned about what things look like, as in riot officers, as they're described, public order officers in the helmets and all of the protective gear. If that doesn't look comfortable to some viewers, we need to understand why police officers are dressed in that way. It's to protect themselves and the public.
Okay, not robots. They are individuals with their own consciences to grapple with. You are, Police Federation is the union of police officers. Is it right for police officers to take the knee in uniform?
I mean, people have said to me that this is a political statement. I don't see it as a political statement. I see it as a personal choice. But either doing it or not doing it will inflame tensions on both sides. And we have to police without fear or favour. So, first of all, I would say to my colleagues, never put yourself into a position which is going to make you vulnerable. And taking to the knee will inflame some views, or it will reassure others. Sometimes we are damned if we do, and we are damned if we don't. I don't criticise colleagues for taking the knee. What I would like to see more of is some genuine engagement, listening to communities, not just ticking a box to say we've done that, let's move on. We've got to listen to communities who feel that they are not being treated well or served by their police, and that's what we are. We're not a military police service. We police by consent. We are the public's police service, and we need to engage with them far better than we have done before. So it's not for me about taking the knee. It's about constructive engagement.
Okay, John Apter, interesting as ever. I really appreciate your time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.